They told you Social Security would be there for you, a guarantee, a promise backed by the full faith of the United States, a system you paid into your entire working life, every paycheck, every year, without fail. But there's a truth Americans were never meant to hear. Social Security was never built to survive. Not like this. Not with these numbers. Not with these demographics. Not with this economy. And the people who designed the system, they knew exactly what they were doing. For decades, Americans believed the deal was simple. You work, you pay in, and someday you get it back. But the truth is far darker. Social Security isn't a savings account. It isn't a retirement fund. It isn't a vault with your money in it. It is a transfer system, a pipeline that moves money from today's workers to today's retirees. And that pipeline only works if there are always more workers than retirees. For most of American history, that was true. In 1950, there were 16 workers for every retiree. The system was overflowing. Politicians bragged it would last forever. Today, there are barely 2 workers for every retiree. And by the time younger generations retire, that number collapses to 1.9, then 1.7, then 1.5. No system on earth can survive that. Not one. But instead of fixing it, politicians did something else. They hid it. For decades, Congress raided the Social Security Trust Fund, replacing real assets with IOUs. They took the surplus that millions of Americans paid in and spent it on everything except Social Security. Wars, contracts, programs, budgets, votes, and the trust fund? It became an accounting trick. A drawer full of promises that would someday come due, long after the people responsible were out of office. The government calls these IOUs special treasury bonds, but let's be honest, you can't spend promises, you can't retire on paper, and you can't fix a collapsing system with words. The Social Security Trust Fund is projected to run dry in the early 2030s, not in 100 years, not in 50 years, in about a decade. And when that happens, the system will no longer be able to pay full benefits, not because the economy failed, but because the math failed. The gap between what Social Security collects and what it owes is growing every single year. Retirees live longer. Healthcare is more expensive. Birth rates have collapsed. Workers earn less, adjusted for inflation. And every year, fewer dollars are paying into a system that owes more and more. This isn't a political issue. It's a structural failure. But here's the part nobody wants to admit. When the trust fund runs out, the government has only 3 choices. 1. Raise taxes. 2. Cut benefits. 3. Print the difference and let inflation do the cutting for them. Guess which one is most likely? It's the one they don't have to vote on. The one they don't have to announce. The one that doesn't require a public debate. Inflation. Raising taxes gets you voted out. Cutting benefits gets you thrown out. But inflation? Inflation steals quietly. It reduces the real value of benefits without ever touching the number printed on the check. They can say, "Don't worry, you're still getting $1,800 a month." And technically, it's true. But that $1,800 buys less every year. Food, rent, utilities, medicine, all rising faster than the cost of living increases Social Security provides. Inflation is the silent benefit cut, and millions of Americans never see it happening. Social Security won't collapse with a dramatic announcement. No president will go on TV and say, "The program is bankrupt." That's not how systems fail. They don't shatter, they erode. Slowly, quietly, predictably, just like every other government pension system in history. Look to Europe. France raised its retirement age and nearly collapsed its government. Greece froze pensions during its debt crisis. The UK slashed benefits and raised contribution levels repeatedly. Argentina wiped out savings through inflation, over and over again. Governments everywhere made the same promise. Work your whole life, and we'll take care of you later. Later came, and the promise broke. America is no exception. It never has been. The truth is simple. Social Security worked when America was young. It worked when the population was booming. It worked when the government spent less and owed less. It does not work in a country where people live longer, families have fewer children, wages stagnate, debt explodes, healthcare costs dominate retirement, and inflation destroys purchasing power. The system isn't failing because Americans did something wrong. It's failing because the design no longer matches reality. But here's the deeper injustice. For decades, politicians told Americans, "Don't worry, we'll protect Social Security." But they weren't protecting the system. They were protecting themselves. They postponed reforms. They avoided hard decisions. They reassured the public with scripted confidence, and they hoped they'd be long gone when the numbers finally stopped working. And now? Now the choices that remain are all painful. Raise taxes on workers already crushed by costs. Cut benefits for retirees who planned their entire future around them. Or let inflation quietly wipe out the difference while pretending nothing is wrong. If you're 60 today, you already feel it. If you're 50, you're next. If you're 40 or 30, the system you're paying into may not resemble anything close to what you were promised. And the people responsible will never be held accountable, because the American retirement system doesn't collapse at the top. It collapses at the bottom, on the workers, the savers, the families who trusted the promise. This isn't mismanagement. This isn't a mistake. This is what happens when a promise becomes politically impossible to keep. And history has shown again and again that when governments run out of money, they don't change themselves. They change the value of the money you use. Inflation, delayed payments, reduced benefits, quiet erosion, collapse, not with a bang, but with a shrug. So ask yourself, if they couldn't keep the promise for your parents, what makes you think they'll keep it for you? The Social Security crisis isn't coming. It's already here. You're living inside it. And the real question isn't whether the promise survives. It's who survives long enough to collect what's left of it. If this made you see the system differently, subscribe. Because in a world built on financial injustice, the truth is the only protection you have.